are taught to put away your former way of life, your old self, corrupt and deluded by its lust.
Be renewed in the spirit of your mind. Clothe yourself in the new self, created according to the likeness of God in true righteousness and holiness. Ephesians 4:22-24.
Let us remember that we are created in the image of God, that we are loved in our brokenness. Let us remember that new life is possible.
Let us never forget that we are resurrected people. I think like one person clapped and everyone felt bad for me because only one person was clapping. Hey everybody, I'm Carl Baker, college pastor here at the Vista. How are we doing tonight? Everyone good? Come on, you had a long weekend. It was Labor Day, you got to rest. I got a little sunburnt. I don't know about you. I did put on sunblock, but I still got sunburnt. But we're really glad you're here. Hey, one thing I want to remind you of is joining a small group. We had the small group fair last week. Yeah, you're in a small group. Anyone else in a small group? Yeah, small groups are awesome. They're really important as we come here together to worship and connect and build relationships. There's still a good amount of people here. And I'm trying to meet as many of you, but it's really hard for you guys to all feel maybe connected or that someone knows your name. But in a small group, when you go to someone's house, you sit in a living room on comfy chairs and eat some chips and salsa, it's pretty easy to feel known. And so I really recommend you get involved in a small group. You can go to thevista.tv/groups. All of our groups are on there. We have 7 college small groups that meet throughout the week. They're in homes led by adults in our church, and they would love, love, love to have you. And what I'll say is, if you think, maybe I'll do that next week, like before you know it, time will go fast and it'll be December. And all of a sudden, you'll never have been in a small group. So today is the day. I recommend checking out the website, finding a group that looks good for you. And maybe you also feel that the semester is kind of going fast, even though it's week 2. I know for me, I felt like May just ended, and then all of a sudden, it's the first week of September. Anybody else? It's like, where did summer go? Anybody? It's like, I had all these plans. I was going to be ready for the semester, coming in all prepped. Then you like stepped on the treadmill, and it was already at a 10. And you're like, kicked into the back wall. It's like, wow, things get moving really, really fast. And so we ask these questions of how are we spending our time? You start the new semester off and you're thinking, how do I spend all my time? I have this class I want to be a part of, and I'm really excited to come to Vespers, and I really want to be part of this organization, or maybe I have a part-time job as well, or a full-time job, as well as doing all the things that I want to do, as well as having maybe a friend going to a small group. There's like all these things that are vying for our time and attention. And so that's what we're going to talk about tonight, this strange force in the world of time. This strange thing that sometimes feels really, really fast, like where did the time go? And other times it feels really slow, like the day is just never going to end. But the reality is time is constant. We all have the same 24 hours every day. We're all given the same amount of time. But sometimes it feels fast, sometimes it feels slow. And sometimes it feels like it's really beating you up and you just can't keep up. You're just so busy, all those things are coming at you, and I think you might feel like a hamster on a treadmill, or on one of those wheels. You may feel like this. And there he goes. So have you ever felt that way? Where it's just like, all I'm doing is trying to keep up. I know that there's somewhere I'm supposed to be running, and no matter how fast I run, I'm just not getting there, and all of a sudden I'm caught in the wheel, it's throwing me off the side. Or maybe you're running from something. Maybe you have a past, or maybe you're a freshman and you're trying to get as far away from high school in that town you came from, or whatever it is. You're running as fast as you can, and no matter how fast you run, you can't get away. We're all in this speed of running and going fast, and it feels a little trapped sometimes. We feel like that hamster running round and round and round. And so there's this question of how do we understand time? How do we, as people that are declared to be Christians, how do we understand and how do we consider this idea of time? Do we have any hope? Are we doomed by the trapped things that are keeping us in the past? Is there any hope for our future? Can things change? Are we going to be able to get out of that wheel and that spiral where things seem to never change? So at Vespers and here at Vista, we look to the Bible, to the scriptures, for a lot of these big questions. We see it as a source of revelation and a source of inspiration for us. And why we look to the Bible is because it teaches us about Jesus. We look to the Bible because it teaches us who Jesus is, and we always read the whole Bible through that lens, through the death, the burial, the resurrection of Jesus. And so the whole Bible is pointing us towards Jesus and helping us understand. And so that's, as Christians, how we understand the Bible. It's this collection, the Bible is, of ancient literature, of poetry, of narrative, of story, of letters, of all these different things. And we read it because we want to learn about Jesus. And so tonight we're going to look at a poem, an Old Testament book. So this was written before the time of Jesus, and it's called Ecclesiastes. You may not have heard of it, you may have, but Ecclesiastes, that word means to the gathered people or to the congregation, and it's a teacher that's writing a series of poems to a collective people. So that kind of be like us tonight. It's someone teaching, using poems to a congregation. That's what Ecclesiastes means. It's in the section of our Bible that we call wisdom literature, or the wisdom tradition. And so it's this idea of, how do we think about the world? I see all the world around me. How should I consider this? What do I do with things? And the opening poem, we're going to be in Ecclesiastes 1, written to this group of people, is how should we think about time? Now, the author of Ecclesiastes, we understand him to be at the end of his life. So he's reflecting back. So it's kind of a little grumpy. I'll be honest. It's kind of like that old curmudgeon guy that you know. It's a little grumpy. But it's a good poem, Ecclesiastes 1. You can follow along the screen. It says this: "The words of the teacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Vanity of vanities, says the teacher, vanity of vanities, all is vanity, all is meaningless. What do people gain from all this toil at which they toil under the sun? A generation goes and a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises and the sun goes down and hurries to the place where it rises. What has been is what will be, and what has been done is what will be done. There is nothing new under the sun. Is there a thing of which is said, 'See, this is a new thing, I've never seen this before'? No, it's already been in the ages before us. The people of long ago are not remembered, nor will there be any remembrance of the people yet to come by those who come after them." Yikes. So this is a rather glum passage, a rather gloomy kind of understanding of time. And a generation comes, a generation goes, and everything kind of stays the same, and no one's really remembered, and we work, and it doesn't really mean anything. Everything is meaningless, everything is vanity. This guy really, I don't know if he had a bad day or what was going on, but this is the picture that we have. It prevents this world view. It's saying this is what wisdom is. And it also presents this idea of time not being linear, so to speak, where one thing's and the next thing and kind of goes on for eternity, but rather it goes in cycles. History repeats itself. So we better study history. That's like every history professor's favorite line. History repeats itself, so we have to study history. But it's this idea of like things just keep happening over and over and over again. And so we're stuck in this picture. We're somewhat trapped in this hamster wheel again, of time just going over and over again. Our friend Stephen Bishop is providing us glass pieces for us this semester. You saw it at the end of the video, and this is our glass piece for this week. It's also in the back wall. You'll be able to see it afterwards. But he captures, I think, really well this idea of time. The glass wraps around and around and around the glass piece and becoming more and more intertwined, and it's hard to decipher. And so this idea of time just keeps going in circles and circles. Maybe you feel that way. You feel that way about your own story. It just keeps going round and round and round. So this for me raises a lot of questions. Maybe it raises questions for you, like, what does this all mean? Like, I thought there was purpose and meaning, and I want to do something. I want to be part of something. I want to grow in some way. I'm going to try and get a career. I'm trying to become a nurse. I'm trying to become a business professional. I'm trying to do things, but what if this is all meaningless? I mean, you came to college. You're going to be here for 4, 5, 6, 7 years, some of you probably. 8 years? Sydney's still here. She hasn't left. She did graduate, though. But you came here to spend your precious time, this limited amount of things that we have. You came here because you want to change. You want to be something that you're not right now. And so what do we do if all this is kind of meaningless? If you're trying to run away from something, but the same thing keeps happening over and over again. See, what I think he's really saying is death is coming. Welcome to Vespers. It's a cheery night. We're talking about death. But this is a reality that sometimes we don't face. I don't want to think about death that much. I don't want to think about that I'm going to die someday. But that's what I think the writer's saying here, that things are just going to keep happening and we will die. That's a sad, sad reality, but we will die. Your time will run out at some point, and at the end of every story, at the end of every life is death. At the end of every life, everyone in this room, plenty of kings and emperors have said they're never going to die and they're immortal, but one thing about them, they've all died. Everyone dies. It's a sad thing, but I think that the writer of Ecclesiastes is trying to put it right here in our face, trying to make us think about it, trying to be this grumpy old man, trying to make us think about time running out in our life. So what do we do? I'm often really too scared to ask those questions of like, I'm going to die, what do I do? Because again, it takes me back to, don't I have purpose? Don't I have meaning? I want to have a career. I want to be part of something. I want to have a family. I want to have kids. I have all these dreams for my future. I think about the future because I don't want the same thing to be happening that's going on right now. What do I do? What do I do if my time is going to run out? And I think what we do, because I know it's what I do, I deny. I deny that death is going to come. I deny. I put my head in the sand and just say it's never going to come. I'm not going to die. I'm going to live forever. I may not actually say that and actually believe it, but I'm sure going to act that way. I'm sure going to act like my death is like really far away, so it's not going to affect right now. I'm going to act like that's super far away and it's not going to touch me so that I don't have to change how I think about my life right now. See, the reality is, though, death will continue to come knocking on our door. We are mortal. Our time will run out. And it's pretty hard to deny the brevity of time when death comes right into your face. I was a senior in college, going into my senior year, all the optimism in the world, getting ready, Melanie and I were planning a wedding. I was a senior year, the class is exciting, thinking about post-grad, what I was going to do, all the excitement of going into your last year. A little bit of fear, but also all the excitement. Some of you are seniors in this room. But then as I came to the semester, my dad had cancer and it came back. And so I'm going into the year and starting out the semester, trying to start out strong, all the excitement, and I get the call that it was time to come home. And I went home to be with my family, and I sat by my dad's bedside for a few days, and I watched my dad die. Cancer had the last word, and death came into my family, and it became really close. Death became really close in my life as I watched my dad die, and it's actually 6 years ago to the day. So today is actually that day in my life, and as I'm reflecting on that, it's crazy. 6 years, again, feels super long. It also feels like it was yesterday and all these things, but 6 years ago, I had to think about death differently when it was my dad. 6 years ago, I thought about time differently because I lost my dad. And I know I'm not the only one in this room. I know I'm not unique in this situation. Sadly, we've all been touched by death probably, and if you haven't really experienced it, it's an inevitability. It's a matter of time until that comes close to you. And so I say this all to say, what do we do? Death is this terrible, nasty thing. I really have painted quite a grim picture for us tonight. And so is there any hope? Is death really the end of the story for all of us, and there's nothing we can do about it? We just kind of take what we can and hope for the best. But remember, we're Christians. Remember, we have to think about all of our stories, everything we think about through the light of Jesus. Everything we think about, every experience, every time, everything we're going to talk about this whole semester, we think about through the light of Jesus. And so when we think about Jesus, he's incarnated. He's God incarnated, God come into our situation. Jesus is the expression of God coming in and being in time, stepping into humanity, stepping into our situation, stepping into death. Jesus coming in and experiencing what it's like to grieve, experiencing what it's like to be human, to lose someone you love, to die yourself. See, Jesus' life ended in death itself. He died on the cross. But as Jesus entered into death, as God entered into death, death could not hold God. God was too strong for death to keep him in the grave, and Jesus got up and walked out of that grave and claimed victory, claimed resurrection, and that's what this whole semester is about. We then become resurrected people. Because Jesus resurrected, because Jesus stepped out of the grave, we now can have life, just like he had life. Because, yes, if death is the end of the story, we have no hope. But no, Jesus says, death is not the end of the story. I've come that you may have life. And so we get to look at the whole thing differently. We get to see everything differently now. Death, the final great enemy, has finally been defeated. I feel like someone should say amen. I mean, death has been defeated. And so now we have to walk into this process of being resurrected people. See, but the challenge is, if I want to be resurrected, if I want to step into the newness of life, if I want to live into that new life that we read in that opening verse that we're going to read all semester long, I have to die first. Because if I want to be resurrected, I have to die first. We can't be resurrected unless we are willing to die. See, if my life is fine and I don't want to die to myself and put that old life behind me, I never can be resurrected. And so we have to be willing to step into death if we want to embrace resurrection and have new life. Rachel Held Evans was a Christian writer, thinker, leader in Christianity, modern blogger, wrote many books that kind of influenced the masses of Christianity. And tragically, this year, at the age of 37, she passed away, leaving behind a husband and 2 small children. She died way too young, but her impact was felt for so long. And I have a quote by her that I wanted to introduce her in that way because I think it changes the way we understand what she had to say here. It gives a little more power to her words as she's already slipped into death. She said this, "It's just death and resurrection over and over again, day after day. This is as God reaches down into our deepest graves and with the same power, God reaches down into our deepest graves in our life with the same power that raised Jesus from the dead. That same power rescues us from our pride, our apathy, our fear, our prejudice, our anger, our hurt, and our despair." I bet she could have kept going on with a lot more. Yeah, I'm sure you could add something onto that list too. The same power that rose Jesus from the dead, that forced his body to come back to life, is the same power that causes you to put away your deepest despair, your deepest fears, your prejudice, all the things that are causing you harm. And so as Christians, we believe new life is possible. We believe that this isn't just something that we profess once, but something we step into every day, like she said. Every day, it's this daily thing where we enter in and we say, I put the old life behind me and I step into the newness of life. I live today as a resurrected person once again. I think there's an actual miracle in this resurrection. I mean, dead things don't come back to life, right? Like, I've never seen anything dead come back to life. But we proclaim boldly this miracle again and again, that that's what it means to be Christians, that we proclaim that dead things come back to life. Dead things come back to life, and that means I can come back to life. I can put all of those things behind me. Another book in the wisdom tradition, just like Ecclesiastes, is the book of Lamentations. And it says in Lamentations 3:22, "The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness." So did the sun come up today? It did. The Lord is faithful today. Is today a new day? Is today a new week, a new month? There's new mercies for you today. Because I think sometimes we think, yeah, but I can't accept mercy. I've done too much. That's all well and good that I could walk in the newness of life, but I've done something today. Well, tomorrow's a new day. There is no shame in this process. There is no shame for you now that you are in Christ Jesus. Today's a new day. The sun's going to come up tomorrow. And if it doesn't, that'll be a different story. But if the sun comes up tomorrow, there's mercy extended to you. And every single day after that. If the sun's coming up, there's mercy for you. So the question then is, how do we live? If we are resurrected people, how do we think about our time? The initial question, we're here, we have a limited amount of time. You have a limited amount of space in this season. How do we think about our time? And I think we then become liberated to rest into action. How do we think about our time? We now think we can rest and we can act. See, I get to rest now because I don't have any fear that I need to climb the ladder to success. I can rest now because I know that I don't control the future. I rest now because all that working hard and pining after all these things that I want, and I have to be successful, and I just have to run on that treadmill. And I get to rest because I know that I'm good enough. I know that I'm loved by God. I'm not loved because of my status or my success or my friends or anything about me. I'm just loved because I'm me. And that gives me a lot of rest. But it also calls me to action. It also calls me to say, I can do something in this moment right now. We can be fully present where we are. See, we can't control the future. We are not limited anymore by our past, and so then we are liberated to embrace this moment. You can't control the future, no matter how hard you try. You no longer are held back by your past. All the things are still in the past, and they're dead and buried, and now we're raised in the newness of life, but you can be liberated to embrace this very moment. So how do we think about time? We think about this very moment. We worry about now blessing others instead of trying to receive only. When we're thinking about this moment, we don't have to worry about the future in that way, so we're able to be fully present. We're able to be fully loving. We're able to be fully caring about our neighbor and the person in class next to us or the person we work with, instead of trying to be selfish and leapfrog over them for maybe a promotion or to get more attention from the teacher. We're able to be fully present in this moment. Another quote by Tish Harrison Warren. She's an Anglican priest in Pittsburgh, and she says it this way: "The new life into which you are baptized is lived out in days, in hours, and in minutes. God is forming us into a new people." Amen? God is forming us into new people, and the place of that formation is in the small moments of today. Of today. Today, not tomorrow. And it's so easy. College is a season where you're told to be selfish. You're told to care about your things and to build your resume and to think about all the things about you. But I think we're being formed today to care about others, to care about our neighbor more than ourselves, to love the orphan, to care for the prisoner, to bring hope to the poor. We get to care about today where our feet are. You get to care about this season and not spend all your time focusing on the next. And so that's my challenge for you. You're here for a limited time, like Sydney said at the start. You may live in Belton Temple for 4 more years, 1 more year, 1 more semester, and then you're going to go somewhere else. But my challenge for you is you have this moment and you'll never get it again. You have this season of life and it will never, ever be the same. You will graduate. Every season comes to an end. Every single thing ends up dying. So embrace this moment. Get plugged in. Get plugged into a local church. Be where your feet are. We always say that here at the Vista. Be somewhere. Be known by somebody. Get into a small group. All these things are offered for you today. But you have to embrace them. You have to live that way, that you care about this moment and not so worry about the future because you can't control it. Not be limited by your past because that's already been buried, but embrace this moment today. So we always want to give you a couple ways to respond. By doing that, you can respond by taking communion in the back, where you take the body and the blood of Jesus represented by bread and juice, where you say, I'm taking in the death, and I'm putting away the death in myself and embracing the new life because Jesus is resurrected. You can give in the offering, which I challenge you to do, and set up a habit of giving in the offering, because that's saying, I care about this moment and this place and these people, because I trust them that they're going to bless someone with that money. And we'll ask someone in this room to bless somebody with that money. Or you can pray with someone, one of our leadership team people in the back. Maybe this is stirring some things in you and you need to just process with someone. I get that. So we would love to pray with you and share in that journey with you. Sydney's going to start us off by doing a corporate prayer, and after she's finished, you can respond.